All right, people. As is well known amongst leftists, there is no joy to be had in Joe Biden's presidency. No, he's done some good stuff in the first week. There's no denying that. But, well, some people do deny that. But the greatest fun is watching conservatives lose their shit over it. Come here, you. I wanted to watch this for a while. It's Ben Shapiro. Biden is president, now what? But I never got around to it. So much other shit was happening. Let's see. Ben Shapiro. Give it to us. Give it to us, your impressions and your dark soul.
There's truth and there are lies. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. Growing inequity, the sting of systemic racism, a climate in crisis. We must end this uncivil war.
It was mainly kind of pablum. But here's the thing. When people use
I like the spooky music over Joe Biden saying stuff like, we're going to get rid of racism. We're going to address climate change. And like the fucking orchestral strings are rising in tone. Yeah.
Deliberately vague terminology like unity without defining what they mean by unity. When they use deliberately vague language like truth versus lies, but they don't define what they mean by truth and what they mean by lies. And
what the wait. What the fuck are you talking about? They don't define truth versus lies. We promote truth over lies. The dictionary definition of truth is something which can be empirically what the fuck are you talking about?
And when they say that there are a bunch of crises that are racking the nation and they misdefine the crises, this is the predicate for something that does not look like it's going to solve crisis, something that does not look like truth, and something that does not look like unity. So this is
that's interesting. He accuses them of vague posting, but he isn't explaining what crises he feels they misdefined.
Biden's shtick since the beginning of his candidacy is that he was going to be a unifying figure in American public life. He's a weird guy to do it. Right? I mean, just to begin with. He's a very partisan Democrat. He was a very partisan Democrat when he was in the United States Senate. He was a very
No? Joe Biden was not an especially partisan Democrat. I think that he's always been pretty big on reaching across the aisle. What? You realize your president was Trump, right? Trump was the one who ran on the prospect that he was going to like unite the country with his big business brain. And then he ended up being the most partisan president maybe in recent American history.
Very partisan Democrat when he was Barack Obama's vice president. He famously stated in 2012 that Mitt Romney was going to put black people back in chains. But
True.
Put that to the side. He was going to be a unifying...
Wait, he was literally brought in as Obama's vice president because he would pacify the conservatives more. Because Obama was more left-leaning and black, so they got an ancient white segregationist to be the vice president.
Figure. And frankly, sounds nice. Right? I mean, we've been very polarized. People have been at each other's throats, culminating in a really ugly scene on January 6th at the Capitol riot. But the question...
No, hold on. The Capitol riot wasn't people being at each other's throats. The Capitol riot was Donald Trump propagating a conspiracy theory about election fraud and then instigating an insurrectionary attack on the Capitol. Hold on. That wasn't a bipartisan reach across the aisle type problem. That was on you guys.
The question is, what does he mean by unity? So here is Joe Biden talking about unity. And his suggestion is that in order for there to be peace, there must be unity.
For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation.
Vosh, I thought Biden was to the left of Obama. Biden's administration is to the left of Obama because if you actually believe in Marxian, dialectical materialism, you recognize that politicians are not vehicles for their own personal interests. They're vehicles for the collective interests of the class they represent. The class needs the party to be more left-leaning because trans issues have moved over, climate change has gotten to be more pressing of an issue, racial discourse has advanced because of BLM, so Biden, regardless of his personal views, has to be an avatar for a slightly different set of policy positions.
Only a state of chaos.
And when Joe Biden says something like, there has to be unity before there can be peace, you got to wonder, what does he mean by unity? Does he mean that disagreement is going to be widely allowed? Or does he mean that if you disagree with me, I'm going to suggest that you are now disunifying and polarizing and wrecking the beautiful unity that would prevail in the absence of your stupid dissent? I'm not...
So this is a completely arbitrary distinction because unity always has to draw a line somewhere. You can't have unity with, like, psychopathic serial killers. But the serial killer, if they were to say, I thought you wanted unity, but you're discluding me from your... It's the paradox of tolerance all over again. That's always what it comes down to. That's what it is every single time. Which is super boring. This is like a solved problem. But yeah.
Judging Joe Biden this early on, I'm asking whether Joe Biden is going to side with the left, whether he's going to side with the Democratic base, or whether he actually means what he says, and he presumes that he is going to uphold basic American principle and then dissent within that principle. Okay.
Wait, what's the I like the binary that he's presented there. Either he's going to align with the Democrats or he's going to side with America. My dude, it's not Biden's fault that the Republican Party has flung itself so far to the right that it's no longer even remotely within acceptable political discourse, okay? Yeah, this is a false dichotomy right here. What is he going to side with the Democrats or is he actually going to do unity? Sorry, motherfucker, you lost the election, okay? Don't complain. You lost. Now he's going to do Democrat stuff. As much as that is.
Okay, and that brings us to number 2. Okay, again, a vague statement that can be interpreted a couple of ways. He talks a lot about truth versus lies.
Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies toll for power and for profit.
The problem, of course, is that, again, when it comes to our politics, there are a lot of folks on the left who don't agree with that. They just agree with what they agree with.
That is hysterical, coming from the person who repped the political party that promoted the election fraud scheme. The Republicans have completely bent backwards and adopted the solipsistic belief that anything is true if you believe it's true. The distinction between truth and lie is completely non-existent in the Republican Party. Like, it doesn't exist. The only type of person who would take issue with a statement from Biden where he says that he promotes truth over lies is a liar. The only reason Ben Shapiro cares about this is because he is a liar and because he sides with liars in a party of liars. That is the only reason he cares about this.
Folks on the left, it is a simple fact that America was rooted in racism, for example. To a lot of folks on the left, it is a simple fact that the police are systemically bigoted. To a lot of folks
True.
on the left, it is a simple fact.
See, this is what I mean, by the way. Now, to prove that he's a partisan who doesn't believe in truth, he's listing things that are true and citing them as though they're like evidence of lefty delusion magic.
That the gender pay gap is due to instinctive and ingrained American sexism, right?
I don't know, instinctive and ingrained. I have never heard people apply those adjectives to sexism before in the context of the pay gap, but it has been proven that even if you account for differences in industries and hours, that yes, there is still a pay gap of around 6%, which is pretty significant. What's 6% of your median American wage? If 1% would be about $600, then 6% would be about $3,600. Not getting $3,600 at the end of the year, like, I think that's a pretty significant difference, you know? That's a decent chunk. And that's if you account for everything else.
All of these are considered facts. Now, everything I just said, each one of those statements is an opinion. It happens to be based on very scanty evidence. When Joe Biden says that we have to distinguish between facts and lies, does he mean that in the very real sense in which 2 + 2 = 4 and 2 + 2 = 5 are not the same? Or does he mean things I disagree with will be considered as though they are lies, and things I agree with will be considered as though they are facts?
So this is actually dishonest on so many levels. It's actually incredible. I can understand why Ben Shapiro makes the money that he does, because there are people who watch this and they're soy clapping and they're thinking, oh my God, he's blowing out the left. But like, this is, oh my God, I feel the need to break this down. We're going to break it down here, okay? So what Ben Shapiro is doing right here is he is implicitly equivocating the type of despotic rejection of truth that somebody like Trump might engage in, which he did many times over his presidency. Trump factually lied all the time, over and over, from the first day of his presidency. He lied about his inauguration crowd size. He lied about 3 million illegals voting for Hillary Clinton. He continued to lie his entire presidency over and over, objectively, empirically provable lies, but he did it anyway. And now he's saying that this is equivalent to a person on the left making an argument in favor of a sociological position that Ben Shapiro disagrees with. That he's equivocating arguments made in favor of a position with outright rejection of truth. This is the way that Republicans and conservatives in general adopt anti-empirical and anti-scientific positions. Because when people like Ben Shapiro do and say shit like this, they prime their audience to not know the difference between what is a factual truth, a factual lie, what is a well-substantiated argument, and what is a poorly substantiated argument. It all blurs together into a big miasma of what is Democrat and what is Republican, which is exactly what they want. When the Republicans are wrong, as they always are, it is to their benefit to frame this as partisan hackery as opposed to what it is, truth versus lies.
This is a very, very important question because during the Obama administration, it was very much the latter. Okay, which brings us to the third theme.
Wait, during the Obama administration, where 6 out of the 8 years he couldn't get any legislation passed because McConnell fucking strangled the Senate? What are you talking about?
Biden's inaugural address, and that was the crises that America faces.
A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer.
Okay, that is a political statement. It is not an objective statement of fact.
Whoa! A political statement? At an inauguration speech? That, oh my God. Are you fucking kidding me? It's a fucking inauguration speech, not the language of a bill.
There is no crisis of race relations in the United States.
That sounds like an opinion to me, buddy.
Other than the opinions that people hold about race relations.
Wait, but that goes both ways. What is or is not a crisis is always going to be an opinion because there's no objective threshold for what is or isn't a crisis. It's your opinion that it's not a crisis. It's other people's opinion that it is a crisis. You would have to substantiate your arguments, and I've seen your videos on how there's no systemic racism. They're pretty fucking stupid, so I know who would win those arguments, which is why you're not trying to frame them as an argument. You're just pointing out that the other side has an opinion without pointing out that yours is too.
The solutions that he's going to propose for that, as we'll talk about in a second, are going to verge on the racially discriminatory themselves. And then finally, he talked about climate change as an existential crisis for the United States.
Oh, sorry, yeah, McConnell became majority leader in 2015, not in 2010. My bad. Yeah, they lost the House too. The Republicans fucked over Obama in a lot of ways.
The solutions that he has proposed to climate change are utterly ineffectual. He has yet to prove that it is a crisis on the level of the immediate. And if he is talking about the crisis that
fucking production value, dude. Fucking production value, dude. Oh shit. Hello. Fucking production value over here. Jesus Christ. We got a cameraman experimenting with some of the fundamentals.
That is supposed to occur over the course of the next 100 years, he has not proposed any solutions that are directed towards solving that crisis. Those are the themes of his speech. Unity,
what?
Which is, again, an empty vessel. It's got to be filled in. Facts versus lies.
You realize that if you go back and you look at Trump's inauguration speech, it's also full of empty political platitudes. It's a fucking inauguration speech. It's not a bill. It's not legislation. It's these you wouldn't hold these different types of statements to the same standard.
Empty vessel has to be filled in, and crises, 2 of the 4 that he mentions, are controversial to say the least. Which brings us to the second issue here. So for a guy who is unifying, you would assume that he would find some consensus policies, and then he would build around those consensus policies. And there are certain areas of American life where there happens to be fairly wide bipartisan support. Biden, with his initial executive orders, is jumping precisely into the areas where there is not significant American bipartisan support.
All right, well, okay. Well, hold on. Maybe we've got a real criticism here. Let's see. So what Ben would have to do here is he would have to provide what Biden has done, and then he would have to explain what Americans have bipartisan support on. And the things that Americans have bipartisan support on would have to be A, substantial, and B, something that can be enacted through executive action. That's what he would need to do here. Let's see if he does it.
So to take a perfect example, he has decided that he is throwing out the 1776 Commission. This was a commission begun by President Trump. It was meant to rebut the 1619 Project, which is a fictionalized piece of propaganda put out by Nicole Henry.
Oh, yeah, okay. So when Trump's government puts out quote-unquote patriotic education, that's not propaganda. But when a commission of academics investigates the origins of America in the context of racism, that's fictional propaganda. Dude, Donald Trump's quote-unquote patriotic education was as close to overt fascist propaganda that we've ever gotten in this country. Like, ring that around in your fucking mouth, dude. Like, Donald Trump passed legislation providing a patriotic education to every like, if you actually read into the stuff that was being provided there, it was basically just like some 1984 shit right there. Yeah. Also, the what was it? The 1669. What's the project's name again? The one that he's bitching about. 1619. Yeah, the 1619 project that they're so mad about was being done by the New York Times. Ben Shapiro, a libertarian, is defending government propaganda to counteract an academic project pushed by a private newspaper, which isn't loading for some reason. Not sure why that is, but just imagine there's text here. Yeah, there's the New York Times dark mode.
Jones and the New York Times, the basic idea of which is that America is rooted in and steeped in racism and bigotry. So
it is a private company that is funding academic research into history versus the president of the United States unilaterally passing executive action to dictate the education of children to make them more quote-unquote patriotic. The fact that Ben Shapiro, who calls himself a libertarian, would ever try to equivocate those things is unbelievable. Fuck, I wish I could debate this weaselly little piece of shit, dude. The idea that he can get away with selling this to his audience while calling himself a libertarian is disgusting.
Put together a commission that was supposed to re-inculcate American values and rebut a lot of those ideas. Biden's killing that one immediately. He has suggested that he's going to simply stop enforcing immigration laws in certain ways, the same way that Barack Obama did, so as to make it a lot easier to illegally immigrate to the United States. He has suggested he's going to jump right back into the Paris Climate Accords.
Good. Wait, what immigration laws has he even hold on. What immigration laws has he relaxed? Executive order on the revision of civil immigration enforcement policies and priorities. Oh yeah, the Muslim bans, DACA. This isn't about illegal immigration. Yeah, this isn't about illegal immigration. Again, libertarian Ben Shapiro not having a problem with the fucking Muslim ban and the deportation freeze. Yeah, this is about brown people. Vosh, how are illegal immigrants a good thing? Well, this isn't even about illegal immigrants. Ben Shapiro is making that up. But if it were about illegal immigrants, I would defend it anyway because they only benefit this country. Labor is a resource. Economically and financially, America benefits from the existence of immigrants. They just do. We just need to provide them a path to citizenship. Simple as that.
The Paris Climate Accords are maybe the most useless piece of paper ever written upon. They basically suggest that a bunch of nations are going to commit to targets that they have no proposals for actually hitting, but the goal...
So then it shouldn't matter that he rejoined it.
...is to shame everybody who is not a member of the Paris Climate Accords.
Well, the entire world is a part of the Paris Climate Accord, so it is a little bit weird that America's like the only country that wasn't in there. Like, it is a little strange, you know? It's funny that Ben Shapiro is bitching that it's like non-binding, because if it was binding, Ben Shapiro would bitch about it even more. Ben Shapiro doesn't give a fuck about the specific provisions of the Paris Climate Accord. He just doesn't like climate change being addressed by the government. If it was binding, he'd have even more an issue with it. Why is he complaining about it being non-binding?
He's appointing people who are unqualified for their positions solely on the basis of their
opinion,
their identity groups. He has a new Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services who is transgender. That is the only headline that is positive about this person. This person also happens to have been the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the state of Pennsylvania, who shipped COVID-positive old people back into nursing homes. So
was that her responsibility? Oh my God, the blur. She's qualified. She held the exact same job before. I'm sorry, wait, was that her decision? Health and Human Services, she was the one who shipped them there? Does that have anything to do at all with her? Or was it just a random dig?
So on the con side would be killed a bunch of olds in Pennsylvania.
Did she do
COVID.
That?
And on the pros would be is a man who believes that he...
There we go. Now I know what his problem is with her. Let's be perfectly clear. There is a reason why Ben Shapiro chose to show footage of her. There is a reason why Ben Shapiro is focusing on this, and it is not because of her role in the state of Pennsylvania.
He is a woman. We have heard from Janet Yellen and people in the economic side of the Biden administration that they wish to immediately rethink American policy on the basis of quote unquote racial equity, which is to suggest discrimination, right? Because the idea here.
Well, no, that would be anti-discrimination. Racial equity would mean anti-discrimination. It's be the opposite. You'd be undoing discrimination. You'd be fighting discrimination. That's what the equity part means.
Is not that we are going to try to create a functioning economy that works and that generates prosperity. The idea is going to be that if there's inequality between racial groups, that can be rectified by redistributionism between racial groups.
Do you have any evidence of this? Sorry, earlier he was very harsh on Biden for not being specific in his inauguration speech. Ben Shapiro, you are making a YouTube video right now. You can make it as long or as short as you want to. Do you have any evidence of this whatsoever, or are you just saying this? I can't counter, like, this isn't even misinformation. He's just making stuff up.
Via economic policy. We've heard that Joe Biden wants to put back in place the entire team that negotiated the Iran nuclear deal.
Damn good! It's like, how lost do you have to be to think these are bad things, dude? Like, oh yeah, and if rumor is to be believed, Joe Biden actually intends on bringing back the Iranian nuclear agreement, the historic detente that was promoted between our country and theirs, which gave us unprecedented access into what could be their nuclear facilities. Like, okay. If he doesn't like Iran, that's great. The deal should be great for people who don't like Iran. Ben Shapiro wants war with Iran. Ben Shapiro is exactly the type of dipshit scumfuck warhawk that he complains about, that he said was the deep state. Ben Shapiro will fight against any effort to engage in detente with foreign countries and will instead escalate constantly. But this isn't surprising for somebody who said that Arabs like to live in dirt and sewage. So yeah, he's got a bias there.
A deal that was, in fact, so damaging to a lot of our allies in the Middle East.
Oh, yeah, wait. In what way? In what way?
That it ended up almost solving the Israeli-Arab dispute because so many people hated the Iran nuclear deal. And
what?
His allies in Congress are encouraging him that if he can't get congressional support for this sort of stuff, as James Clyburn suggested, he should just go ahead and do it from the top.
If they're going to be recalcitrant, if they're going to throw up roadblocks, go on.
Hold on. Fact check. Did Biden's Assistant Secretary for Health pick or contribute to elderly deaths? False. There is no evidence to support Green's claim that Levine placed corona-positive patients in nursing home facilities, thus likely contributing to the thousands of elderly deaths in Pennsylvania. It is true coronavirus nursing home-associated deaths have risen in the state. However, although Levine serves as the PA Secretary of Health and was active in that position when the state's health department issued the guidance to nursing home facilities saying they can accept patients who formerly had COVID, that does not prove she placed coronavirus-positive patients in nursing homes or contributed to thousands of elderly deaths in the state. So it seems like the health department did a big fuck-up, but like it wasn't directly attributed to her. It said they can accept patients from hospitals who formerly had COVID-19, but that's not the same as currently having COVID-19. I assume that formerly having COVID-19 means that you would be like reliably testing negative before being put amongst other people. Yeah. I assume there's some nuance to this, but yeah, I don't think... Oh yeah, that's true. The idea of like Ben Shapiro bitching about old people dying in nursing homes is fucking hysterical, considering his language early on.
Trying to balance the risks and rewards here is a difficult thing. The easiest thing you can do is say all damages caused are caused by the pandemic. All of the good things that are happening, like you being alive, that is caused by me, right? It's sort of the Gretchen Whitmer strategy in Michigan, and that's a very easy thing to say. But in reality, not only are there countervailing issues on the other side, such as the fact that people are going to lose their jobs and their livelihoods and their dreams, and quality of life actually matters. But none of these governors are going to keep things locked down forever. I mean, Andrew Cuomo, when he said just save one life, 5 days later he's saying we're going to open up parts of New York State. Okay, so which is it? I mean, obviously that means that more people are going to be infected. So we're always going to make this public policy consideration. Nobody just wants to say the obvious truth, which is that we're all making actuarial deductions about what are the costs in terms of how many human lives, how many years of life because that is an actual issue in actuarial tables, right? If somebody who is 81 dies of COVID-19, that is not the same thing as somebody who is 30 dying of COVID-19. I mean, if this were killing children, everyone would be...
What he's doing right now, they're called death panels. He's the one who's making a decision that we should open the country back up, even though it could lead to the death of vulnerable people, because he's decided their lives are worth less. This guy's pro-life. This was the anti-death panel guy.
For lockdown forever. That's the reality, right? If a bunch of 5-year-olds were dying of COVID-19 and people were saying get back to work, I'd be like, nope, I'm not letting my 5-year-old die. If grandma dies in a nursing home at age 81, that's tragic and it's terrible. Also, the life expectancy in the United States is 80. So that is not the same thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't think that Ben Shapiro has much standing to complain about the PA health department's fuck up when it comes to the movement of elderly people from hospitals.
Without them, use your executive authority if they refuse to cooperate.
Is that unity? Does that sound like truth versus lies?
Wait, hold on. What does using your executive order power have to do with truth versus lies? Wait, what is the association between those things? I know you're trying to pull together some kind of theme for this whole video. What is the association between truth versus lies and using executive orders? It isn't really unity favored, but you know what? Fuck unity. I don't want unity. Eat shit, unity. Also, you didn't even bring Biden saying that he was going to use executive orders. You got some other fucking guy. You got Clyburn. Fuck unity. Republicans are scum. All they want to do is bring the country down and kill people, okay? There's no good reason to be Republican. There's no excuse. There's no justification. Unity is a neoliberal attempt at placating the obvious and irrevocable divide in this country. It's weakness. And I'm disgusted that even the Democrats they feel are good enough to champion as presidential candidates are still buying into this bullshit. After 4 years of Trump, you'd think it would be perfectly clear there's no point in unifying with these people.
Brings us to the final question here, which is, okay, what do we do about it? As conservatives, what do we do about all of this stuff?
Cry!
Alrighty, so Joe Biden tends to put me to sleep. I mean, he tends to put himself to sleep. But if he puts you to sleep and you actually need to stay awake, you need coffee. And that means you need an...
Oh, fuck you. No, stop.
...over to get add to cart. Literally every major institution in American life is now run by people who are censorious, people who do not like your opinions, people who wish to ostracize you. And
hey, remember when Donald Trump wanted to deport people or revoke citizenship from people who burn the flag? Remember when Donald Trump wanted to open up libel and slander laws so it was easier for him to sue the news organizations that factually reported on all the shit that he did? I remember.
And extirpate you, in some cases, from American public life. Corporate America is dominated by people who are willing to go along with the woke and purge you if you disagree. The media are all in on this.
Just a reminder, by the way, that anybody who uses the term the woke, like broadly, the woke, should never be listened to under any circumstances. There is absolutely no reason to listen to this individual. They are completely rotted from the inside out. They have nothing. They aren't even talking to you. They aren't capable of thinking. They're a philosophical zombie. They're a corpse going through the last few stages of rigor mortis. And their random oral spasms are nothing more than a coincidence, okay? There's nothing to listen to here. The woke. Like there's some sort of monolithic hive mind of what? College trans people? The fuck are we talking about? Corporate executive boards? Are they the woke?
The idea that their opposition ought to be wiped off the earth.
These companies have freedom of speech, but I'm not sure we need Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and such to be bringing them into tens of millions of homes.
Right? We are seeing this in social...
It's interesting that Ben Shapiro went from criticizing the language of Joe Biden to just bringing up random people on CNN. Yeah, that clip is super out of context. But throw up the little, just pop 3 seconds of that in, and now everybody watching Ben Shapiro has pissed themselves and is crying themselves to sleep, imagining that the woke mob will come for them next.
Social media as well, directly, where the tech bros have decided that they are simply going to cave to the Democrats.
Oh, by the way, one last thing. If a guy said, I respect the free speech of these big tech companies, but I don't think they should be I don't think that means they should be pushing this speech into millions of homes, Ben Shapiro would agree if we were talking about ISIS recruitment videos. Just keep that in mind, folks. Even the most free speech absolutist types, for the libertarians who are okay with the fucking 1776 commission, will buckle on something. And if he believes that it's unethical to have like ISIS recruitment videos up on YouTube, then I can make some pretty fucking strong arguments for Nazi videos, let me tell you.
In the hope that they will be left alone, or they actually agree with Democrats that a lot of the language they don't like is now going to be considered dangerous and ought to be banned.
Wait, I'm sorry. Isn't Ben Shapiro's literal fucking motto complaining about, like, woke corporations pushing pro-LGBTQ propaganda into people's homes? Isn't that literally, like, one of the #1 things that he complains about? That clip that he pulled was out of context, but he does the same fucking thing all the time. He's like, and if you want to teach your kids the trans delusion at home, that's your right. But I don't think this should be pushed on them through Cartoon Network, these cartoons. I remember that. The Cartoon Network thing. He's anti-free speech, dude.
Okay, so what do we do about it? One, make sure that you actually get out and work for Republican congressional candidates in 2022. There is another election coming up. The party out of power typically does very well in the off-year elections. Right now, the Democrats have the slimmest governing majority in the House of Representatives in several generations that can easily be flipped. Easily be flipped. But that means the Republicans have to get out there and work. They don't just have to get out there and work for candidates. They have to pressure their legislatures and legislators at the state level to redo how voting is done so we don't have the fiasco that was universal mail-in balloting this time. It means better voter verification. It means voter ID. It is to suggest you need to vote on the day that the election.
This from the Truth versus Lies guy.
Is held, and you better have a good excuse for not doing it that way. And it better be you when you actually vote. Right, that would help as well. You need to get Senator Joe Manchin on your speed dial. So Senator Joe Manchin is the sole force right now militating against the death of the filibuster in the United States Senate.
That is true. Joe Manchin is the big fucking linchpin right now. We should be doing the same thing, by the way. Joe Manchin, we should be sending that motherfucker mail. Joe Manchin, we should be writing strongly worded letters and folding them into paper aeroplanes so we can fling them off the rooftops of the highest buildings in DC in the hopes that they will fly in through an open window and land directly onto his fucking taco bowl. Okay? That is what we are looking for right now. We need to get it in. Why, Vosh? Because Joe Manchin is the reddest Democrat there ever was. Joe Manchin is a dino, a Democrat in name only. He is fiscally conservative. He is socially conservative. He is marginally better than just having a Republican there, but marginally is the key word there. And he needs to be pressured.
Starts to waver on that. I'm going to give you his phone number right now. If you're a West Virginian citizen particularly, you need to sound off to your senator if he starts to waver on that principle 1 iota. His number.
Hey, you guys too, okay? You're in fucking West Virginia. You need to call this motherfucker, okay? Get in there.
Is 304-342-5855. You're going to have to hold his feet to the fire.
Yep. You guys too. Thanks, Ben. It's 3855. Get in there, folks. Get that call, okay? Make sure Joe Manchin knows your name.
Stop him from violating fundamental norms and getting rid of the filibuster.
Stop him. No, start him. Start him getting rid of the filibuster. No, the other one.
Filibuster is gone. Democrats can, with a simple 50 plus Kamala Harris votes, add states like Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, adding 4 Democratic senators.
Yes. Yeah, we can get... The Republicans will never win again if we get D.C. and Puerto Rico. You gotta get rid of the filibuster. We need it. We need it gone. We need to use this power while we have it.
Could move forward theoretically with packing the Supreme Court.
Yes!
Or they could move forward with completely rewriting broad swaths of American law. So Joe Manchin stands...
Wait, adding new states and getting rid of the filibuster are not removing broad swaths of American law. That's just American law. Those aren't illegal. That's how the system works.
Between the Republic in that sense and...
Yeah, the Senate has already decided to keep the filibuster for now, Dango. If there's more of a push in the future, it's possible that it could be removed, but frankly, I'm not too optimistic about it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't call, goddammit.
Sort of crack up that faces us if, with the barest of bare majorities, Democrats start cramming down extraordinary top-down policy. States that are red should start protecting their citizens from the predations of national institutions. If the social media bros decide that they are simply going to violate the sort of free speech rights that you would have were it's a public sector company by cracking down on dissent in monopolistic fashion, right? Coordinating and then all deciding that certain views are out of the debate.
Wait, hold on. Let's follow this so far. Red states need to protect themselves from federal tyranny, but then he started talking about private tech companies. What, is he going to say that states should make their own Facebook? What are we talking about?
And out of the domain of normal public discourse, states are going to have to step in. You've started to see this in some states, proposals being put forth that any ISP that discriminates, any cable provider that discriminates on the basis of politics, any social media network that discriminates on the basis of politics will not be able to operate in a particular state. That restrictions will be placed on those companies.
So do you think that tech companies should be able to ban people for being pro-ISIS? Like, where's the line on that? What is a political opinion and what is harassment? I would argue that being openly Holocaust denial-y is harassment in and of itself, that the political opinion encompasses harassment, that you can't just have that opinion in a neutral or private context. If you're saying it publicly, it entails harassment. So what's the line?
I'm not a fan of using this sort of interventionism with regard to these companies. But if the companies have basically centralized all the power to control your speech in the public forum, then I don't see a whole hell of a lot of protections outside of state governments, especially if the federal government is forcing a lot of this.
I mean, if you want to go that route, you can. Just keep in mind that he's advocating for states to interrupt the free market and take away the enterprising rights of these tech companies, which have a legal and, in my opinion, moral right to enforce a terms of service violation if they see it. Yeah, libertarian, by the way. The state should be able to block out customers' access. Keep in mind what that would mean, by the way. First of all, this is never going to pass. Can you imagine if the people in a red state who like and use Facebook suddenly have Facebook taken away from them because their governor signs into law a bill that prevents Facebook from being able to operate on the IP addresses within their state? Like, this is never going to pass. You would destroy commerce in that state because social media is a huge way for businesses to get their word out. You would destroy like e-commerce. You would destroy like customer service systems. You would destroy people's ability to communicate and connect. There was zero chance whatsoever of any state being stupid enough to fucking block a tech company. That's unbelievably dumb. I don't even know if they can legally or technically do that. Do they? Does a state even have the ability to like restrict website access within the state itself? I guess I haven't even tried looking into that. I don't even know. They do? Okay, well, I still think it'd be dumb.
Conservatives are going to have to get very active in the legal arena. Democrats have for decades used the power of the judicial branch in order to get policy done that they couldn't get done at the legislative level. People on the right need to coordinate in terms of the lawsuits that they are filing in order to uphold their rights in the face of discrimination on the basis of religion or violation of freedom of religion, on the basis of free speech rights. And all these things are going to have to get litigated in court. And then finally,
I can't believe that literally from one point to another, he's saying that the state should block access to tech companies that don't want to do service with far-right people, and then saying that we should sue so that bakeries don't have to bake gay people cakes. It's unbelievable. It's literally one point next to another. On one hand, under no circumstances should any discrimination be allowed against people's political opinions by big tech, and then on the other hand, businesses should absolutely be able to discriminate against you if you're gay or black or whatever. These are right next to each other. He's saying it back to back. He's okay with discrimination as long as it's against gay people and black people, and not okay with it as long as it's against conservatives and straight people and white people. That's the gist of it. It's that simple. That's the whole 9 yards. That's it. There's no other explanation for his behavior.
on an interpersonal level, we're going to have to talk with one another. We're going to have to stop hunkering down in the silos that we've built for ourselves, and we are going to actually have to start talking with one another, convincing one another, treating each other with respect. Weirdly enough, that's exactly what Joe Biden advocated for in his inaugural address. I hope that he takes it seriously. I certainly do. And I hope that we have those conversations. If we do, then I think that the next few years could actually be bright. I think that we could actually start moving beyond the partisan polarization that we have seen. I don't have a lot of faith that that's what's going to happen, but I think that if you engage with your neighbors and with your family, then that is the best possible outcome, and that will shift our...
Wait, is this real? The video we're watching is Biden is president, now what? And apparently Zexizi 3 minutes ago dropped a video called Biden won, now what? A response to Vosh. Oh shit, we're in the fucking rabbit hole now. Oh god. The recursive discourse. Oh, we're entering the loop. The hyperloop. Fuck. Alright, we'll look at that in a second.
And that will shift minds and will make people more conservative over the course of time. Final note. There's one other thing you should do, and that is you should support alternative institutions.
Fuck you. Nope, get out. Well, I mean, you should. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, by the way. But not to anything Ben likes. Alright, yeah, that was about what I expected. Actually, no, I think that wasn't quite what I expected, because I always imagine they're going to make better arguments than they do. I've always wondered about this, because I feel like if I was making that video for Ben Shapiro, I could actually make a much more compelling case in favor of Republicans and conservatism against Biden than he can. Does that mean I'm smarter than him? I think the easier explanation is that he actually dumbs his arguments down for his audience. That's actually the impression that I get. I feel like very often the reason why conservative arguments are so dumb is because you're trying to meet your audience where they're at. And a lot of, Bosh, what argument would you make? There were so many obvious hypocrisies that he engaged in here. Like his bullshit about truth versus lies, or his complaining about a non-specificity in a fucking inaugural speech. Like, yeah, he's a Harvard law grad. I know he can make better arguments than this, but not here. Yeah. Here, an ISP in Idaho shut down Facebook and Twitter. Okay, but this is the ISP, not the state itself. I guess the state could make the ISP not do it, but then we get into some really, really weird territory. We get into some really weird territory there. Hopefully nothing like that comes to pass. I would hate my my wonderful fans in red states to not be able to follow me on Twitter and Facebook.